Hey guys, it's Frank and Kevin from Cruising with Wheels.
Here's some helpful hints in the age of COVID for picking travel insurance. So we thought it would be a good idea to give everybody a few ideas of what they should be looking for when purchasing travel insurance. And the reasons why we thought it was such a good idea is we keep getting messages from subscribers on our Facebook, our Snapchat,
Right, everywhere, all our
Twitter,
social media platforms.
Instagram, and they're all asking about, do I need travel insurance? Do I have to look for special COVID travel insurance? And what exactly should I be looking for? Now, there's only one cruise company right now that's going to require passengers to get travel insurance, and that would be Royal Caribbean. And that is on cruises from August 1st to December 31st. Of 2021, and on all bookings except bookings made from March 19th to June 28th of 2021, and that was prior to their edict.
Right. And this mandate is just for unvaccinated
It's unvaccinated guests, and it's for guests 12 years of age or older. So I think they've looked at the age requirements for vaccination. And so if you are not vaccinated and you are traveling on a Royal Caribbean ship between the dates that we have mentioned, you have to purchase and prove that you have purchased travel insurance.
Yeah.
And the specifications were $25,000 per person for COVID medical expenses and $50,000 per person for quarantine and evacuation services pertaining to COVID. Now, within the travel industry and travel insurance industry specifically, they've been expanding their policies to include COVID in most situations. Even though prior to COVID, there were riders in there about not allowing anything pandemic related.
Right.
But they're realizing that
this is now normal.
It's the new
every
normal.
day. Right, new normal.
So in most cases, you will have to ask, but in most cases, most policies will cover you for COVID-19 now going forward. And the first thing that we think that you should look at within your shopping experience for travel insurance would be trip cancellation insurance. Now, what trip cancellation insurance will do, because I know you want to know, right?
I do want to know. I was worried.
Is they'll reimburse you for up to 100% of your non-refundable trip costs. Okay? And that's if you have to cancel for any reason that's listed within the policy. Now, and so the question that they're going to have to ask is, does it cover COVID-19? Mm-hmm. Right? And then the second thing we think you should look for is emergency medical expenses and emergency evacuation.
Yeah, like airlifting.
Like airlifting. Now, within the United States, Medicare and the U.S.-based healthcare plans may have limited coverage for this. But you don't want to count on that.
No, if not no coverage at all, because if you're in a foreign country, your U.S. Medicare or whatever coverage is not going to apply when you're in another country. It's just not.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing.
Right.
Because
you may leave from a U.S. port.
The minute you leave from the United States, that Medicare in U.S. is not going to cover it.
Bye-bye coverage.
Right. So now travel insurance plans they might have up to $500,000 in medical expense coverage and $1 million in emergency evacuation. But not all policies are going to be that comprehensive. And if you get something that covers all that, it's going to be a lot more expensive. So you just want to make sure that you're covered for the minimums, and that would be, like we said earlier, $25,000 per person pertaining to medical expenses. That's the bare minimum, and then $50,000 per person for quarantine and evacuation. Now the third...
Yeah, next on the checklist you want to look at is trip delays.
Trip delay coverage. And we have been delayed before in a trip. We haven't missed
the ship. Thank goodness.
But trip delay coverage basically will reimburse you for extra expenses during the delay. So if you have to pay for an extra night,
right,
staying in a hotel, or maybe meals in the airport. Now,
or you miss the ship, and you're going to meet it at the first port.
Right.
You're going to have to get there.
I cannot stress this enough, though. You have to be like Frank and be a record keeper.
Yes.
They're not going to, there's not a magical phone number you're going to call, and somebody's going to pay for that. You're going to have to output the money to begin with, and then you're going to have to submit receipts to be reimbursed.
Right.
But it is... we say trip insurance, the one time you use it is worth every penny that you've used it the rest of the time. Now, the fourth thing that's covered is trip interruption coverage. That's the fourth thing you want to look for. Why do they want to look for trip interruption coverage? Do you know why?
Why?
Well, because we've paid for this trip in advance, right?
And now we're not getting half of it.
And now we're not getting it all, but the cruise line has all of our money. And in general, they won't give you back any money. They might give you a credit if your trip is interrupted. Like, here's a future cruise credit. Come cruise on us again.
Right.
We're sorry that
but
this
what
happened.
happens if there's an outbreak of, we've gone from neurovirus to COVID to I don't know what.
Right.
Or the ship becomes slightly disabled and has to, in the middle of your cruise, has to go to the nearest port. So much for your 7-8 day cruise is now 3 days, but you've paid for 7-8.
And some coverages will pay, some policies will pay you up to 150% reimbursement of your trip coverage. So that's a very nice thing to have, and I think every policy should have it, and if it doesn't have it, you shouldn't get it.
Right.
Now, maybe I need some YouTube insurance.
No, it's not looking good.
It's the allergies today. Now, the final thing that we think that is absolutely necessary for travel insurance to have is baggage benefit. Okay, so a baggage benefit will cover you if your baggage is lost, damaged, delayed, stolen, and in a lot of cases, there will be things covered like you go to the beach for the day and you take your camera and your camera gets stolen. Your trip insurance will cover it. They'll reimburse you for that item when you return home after you've filled out the proper paperwork and they've done whatever they're
I'll never forget the story you had of one of your clients. Luggage ended up in the water, and most of her clothes were expensive, designer, and made for her.
Right.
Not off the rack.
Now this was a business trip. It was their second cruise, I believe. It was a European cruise. And
very formal, very dressy.
Very, very formal, very, very dressy. And my client is not a typical size.
Right.
So most of her clothing was custom made for this particular cruise. And she had trip insurance, and it afforded her to be able to go out
Right.
in Europe.
Right.
She went to a tailor and had things done.
Right.
And when she got back, they reimbursed her.
Right. I mean, thankfully, money-wise, she was covered. The hardest part for her was having to actually find new clothes, and that becomes an arduous task if you're not, let's say, how do I say, built as an off-the-rack kind of shopper.
Right. Now, there's a specific phrase that we want you to ask when you are asking your representatives about your trip insurance. Do you know what that special phrase is, Frank?
It's 4 letters.
It's 4 letters.
CFAR, which stands for?
Cancel for any reason. You want to make sure that you have cancel for any reason coverage. It's an optional upgrade, but
Right.
we think it could be really worth it for you. And it's only an upgrade on some policies. Some policies come with it automatically. If all eligibility requirements are met, cancel for any reason coverage will reimburse you 50% or 75% of your prepaid non-refundable trip cost if you want to back out of your cruise for any reason, such as fear of COVID.
Right, just the fear.
So normally you can't cancel and get your money back after final payment.
Right.
Your trip insurance isn't going to cover that unless you are ill.
Yeah, all of a sudden, let's say a week or two after final payment, you're getting uncomfortable.
And I'm sorry, I wanted to read it right from the...
And because maybe
from the horse's
virus
mouth.
cases are increasing in the port area that you're leaving, you're not comfortable getting on the cruise. Yeah, now the fear, your fear is covered.
Yep, your fear would be covered because you can cancel for any reason. As long as that policy says you can cancel for any
But boy,
reason.
you know, in this not only of like viruses, like the neurovirus, COVID virus, but hurricanes, volcanoes. I mean, there's so much stuff going on in the world. I mean, how could you put all of that specific listing, right?
Right.
So, CFAR.
CFAR. The caveat to CFAR is that they will have to cancel at least 2 days prior to departure. Right? Because that's always a caveat of that CFAR. I love that they give it letters. I love letter things. It's like BAMS. That's the Bermuda something or other. BAMS.
BAMS.
Now,
Aquarium, museum, and zoo.
now, Frank and I think that you should consider purchasing travel insurance, even if it's not required.
Right, and again, so many, millions and millions of people do it as a normal part of your vacation experience. Yeah,
it's part of our normal.
Pre-COVID, you know, it was always, what if? You know, I'm traveling, my spouse has been ill, God forbid something happens right before we leave or during the cruise. That's a normal part of everyone's everyday life, and not just because of COVID.
Right. I know that we always get the insurance. I always make sure that it has the CFAR just in case something happens to somebody at the shop and we have to cancel so that the shop's covered. Now, we do want to say again that the COVID coverage has been expanding, but you do need to double check with your representative from wherever you choose to get your insurance from. And we feel that, at least in our experience, that the cruise line is a good place to get it from. That's mostly where we
Biggest question: do I get it from the cruise line? Do I go to a third party? Where's the best place to get my travel insurance?
Right, and you know, I mean, only you can decide whether it is going to be a good deal or not. We've said that over and over
what
again.
exactly it covers.
And
so the best place to get it is what covers what you need to be covered.
Well, and if it pertains to COVID-19 itself, the best way to understand the scope of your policy is to always ask your travel agency company or representative. And the policies are very complex. So you really have to partner with someone you trust and ask. And if it doesn't have coverage for COVID-19 and that's what you're looking for, then you need to see if there is an upgrade option.
Right. What are the additional costs to add it if it's not part of?
And then maybe you should look at a different company.
Right. There isn't always one place or spot to look for anything.
Right. Now, in previous years, we've been asked about trip insurance and how do we find the right trip insurance for us? What can I do? What are the questions I need to ask? And if you go on our Facebook, there is, I forget what this section's under.
Well, go to Facebook, Cruising with Wheels, and click on Photos. And you're going to find our photo albums, and that's, we have a lot of photo albums. So the one you want to look at is the one labeled Travel Insurance, and you're going to find our checklist that we have there, which now you're going to have to add COVID-19 to.
Right. It's actually a pretty comprehensive list that we came up with. It's 9 different things that you have to ask yourself about. What you might think you'll need. And then, just like we said, a checklist.
Right.
It's, you print this off, and then when you're buying insurance, in this section, it's you check off what they tell you is covered. And in this section, you check off the reasons why you're able to cancel. Because those are the biggest things.
Right.
Am I going to be able to cancel for any reason?
Right. If I cancel, when am I able to cancel?
Right. When am I able to cancel?
Right.
What are the reasons I can cancel for? Will I be reimbursed 50%, 75%, 100%? Is there a sliding scale based on when I cancel? So, yeah, I think everybody should go and take a copy of this.
Right.
And I'm in the process, actually, speaking of forms, dealing with Katie over at Teespring. They have a new digital section of Teespring. And we are looking into possibly having all of our forms available there.
Oh, wow.
For you to download.
Wow, that's a lot of forms, people.
Yes, but maybe we could come up with a whole, this is your travel packet.
Right.
So you should check out our Teespring, speaking of that.
Right.
That's where we got both of our shirts. And we have new products coming out this year. All about Cruising with Wheels. So check that out. Click that subscribe button. Follow us on Facebook,
Instagram, Twitter, and
Snapchat. But until next time, we want to remind everybody to always
travel safe
and cruise often.